Chulin Daf Chavdalad, the Gemara is going to be explaining the Mishnah that we saw in Daf Yomi with Beis, that we said that by Paraduma only Shchita works and not Arifa, and by Nagla Arufa only Arifa works and not Shchita. The Gemara wanted to learn from a Kal V'chomer that maybe even you can do Arifa by a Paraduma. And the Gemara says you can't learn out because Omar Kro v'shachat v'chuka. It says by Paraduma v'shachat, it says v'chuka. And therefore, because it says the word Shchita, and when it says Zois Chukas HaTorah, in the beginning of Parshas Chukas, when the Torah introduces the Parsha of Paraduma, that teaches us that we always must abide by every one of the particular details that the Torah says. And Zois Chukas HaTorah means this is the law, and whenever we have that terminology, that teaches us that everything in the Parsha is essential and not just preferable. And therefore, you must do Shchita and not Arifa. B'Shchita in b'Arifa loy. Says the Gemara, is that really true? Every time it says the word Chayk, is it true that loy darshin and Kal V'chomer, that we won't allow ourselves to infer from what we know and add on to the halachos with using a Kal V'chomer? We wanted to use a Kal V'chomer to learn that not only Shchita works, also Egla works, and you told me I can't because of the word Chukah. Is this true that you can't learn out from Kal V'chomer once you have Chukah? V'hagabe Yom Kippurim. What do you mean regarding Yom Kippurim? Diksiv bechukah. It says in the Torah, "V'yisazleis lochem lechukasei lom lechaper al bnei Yisrael b'kol chatoisam." It's a pasuk by Yom Kippurim, Parshas Achronos. It says Chayk, and still Vitanya. We have a brayso ve'oso chatos. The pasuk says regarding the two goats that you have to bring, where one goes as a chatas and one goes to Azazel. And the way we determine which of the two goats goes La Azazel and which of the two goats goes to La Hashem to become a chatas on the Mizbeach, how do we determine? What we do is we take two pieces of wood, we write on one of them La Hashem and one of them we write La Azazel, and then the Kohen mixes it up and picks one out like a raffle, and then places it on one of the animals, and that is what decides which animal goes La Azazel and which one goes La Hashem. It's called a goyro. So we learn that from the pasuk Ve'asahu chatas, and the Kohen makes it into a chatas. HaGoyrel oisa chatas. The goyrel, the raffle that the Kohen makes, is what determines and makes this animal designated to a chatas. The Ein Hashem oisa chatas, and not just the calling of the name of the Kohen. If the Kohen decides before, or just decides by calling one of them a chatas and by calling the other one Azazel, it's not going to make a difference because it's the raffle that has to decide and not the kriyas shem of the Kohen. Sheyachol v'aleidinu continues the brayso, because maybe I would learn how to Kal V'chomer in a place when raffle makes no difference. Raffle doesn't work. Usually, a raffle will not determine which carbon is what. For example, if you have, let's say, a woman who gave birth, a yoledes, she has to bring a pair of birds. And one of them has to be an oila, and one of them has to be a chata. So let's say you make a raffle and decide through the raffle that one of them is an oila and one of them is a chata. So we don't find that ever to be binding, because a raffle is not something that designates anything as a carbon. But if you decide and you designate it with your mouth and you call one of them a chatas and one of them an oila, that does go into effect, like it says in the pasuk that motzas fatecha tishmo v'asita. You have to fulfill the words of your mouth. So you see kriyas shem, calling something does make a difference, right? So says the Gemara, let's learn at a Kal V'chomer. Uma b'makom shaloi kiddush hagirl. If even in a place when girl doesn't work, i.e. the case of a yoledes, but Kiddush Hashem, but just calling it its name, calling it the designated name that you want it to be, that does work. Makom Shekiddush Girl, a place that girl does work, like Yom Kippur, ain't a din Kiddush Hashem, for sure Kiddush Hashem should work. Talmud Lomer says the Brisa, that's why the pasuk teaches us Ve'osahu chatas, and it makes it into a chatas, and we learn from that Hagirl ois a chatas, specifically it. Only one thing makes it a chatas, the girl. Ve'ein Hashem oiseh chatos, and not the calling of the name. Time of the Kasav Rachmana ve'oso chatos infers the Gemara that it's only because the Brisa has the pasuk of ve'oso chatos to limit the din to a raffle. But if not for this pasuk, I would have actually darshin a kal v'chomer. I would have used a kal v'chomer to say that even Kriyas Shem works. So you see that even though you have the word chukah by Yom Kippur, it says and still we would use a kal v'chomer, if not for another pasuk. So don't tell me every time you have chukah you can't extrapolate dinim through the use of the exegetic tool called kal v'chomer. And therefore the Gemara now has to find another reason why we are going to refute the kal v'chomer. It's not enough to just say chukah. Just because it says by para aduma chukah doesn't mean that it's limited to shchita. Maybe we can learn from kal v'chomer that arifa is also good. So, continues the Gemara, you're right, Miyat Rachmana Gabe Egla, by Egla Arufa we have a specific pasuk which excludes anything else from Arifa. It says Ha'arufa, it says Ha'egla Ha'arufa Banochal. So we learn out from the word Ha'arufa, the one that's Arufa, the one that's decapitated. Zayis Ba'arifa, specifically this one is the one that's allowed to be decapitated. Ve'en Acheres Ba'arifa, no other animal that is brought as a ritual can be decapitated. It all needs shchita. Now the Gemara is going to ask the kal v'chomer the other way. Maybe an egla arufa should be kosher. B'shchita you should be able to slaughter regularly and it should be good. Kal v'chomer uma para shaloi huchsharu b'arifa. If even para that arifa doesn't work, decapitation alone does not work. Ksher b'shchita, only shchita works. Egla sheksher b'arifa, if an egla that even arifa works, which is so rare to find that decapitation should work in a ritual, but if over there that arifa works, ain't a din sheksher b'shchita, wouldn't it be certainly shchita should work? So therefore the Gemara answers no, Amar Kra, that's why we have a pasuk, the arifu ha'egla, we have a specific limud that says dafka the arifa works, egla ba'arifa in b'shchita loy. Okay, continues the Mishnah in yet another example when two dinim have an inverse relationship. What's kosher by one is possible by the other. Kosher by kaihanim is possible leviim. What's kosher for kaihanim disqualifies leviim. What's kosher for leviim, kosher by leviim, possible by kaihanim disqualifies kaihanim. Says the Gemara. The Gemara is going to explain what this is in regard to. Tan Rabbanan, Kaihanim bimumin psulin. A Kayan, if he has a blemish, he's pasul. If he has a physical blemish on his body, he's missing a limb or something of the like, he becomes disqualified from officiating the services in the Beis Hamikdash. Bishanim, however, at old age, with years, meaning as they go on in the years and they become older, they're still kosher. A Kayan could work until he's very old. Leviim, however, bimumin ksherim, even if they have the blemish, they can still work as a Levi in the Beis Hamikdash, but b'shanim psulim, but at a certain age they become disqualified. Nimsar, we find what's kosher b'kaihanim is possible leviim. Kosher b'leviim, possible b'kaihanim. Okay, Minani really asks the Gemara, from where do we know this? The Tan Rabbanon, we learned in a brayso the Chachamim taught us Zois Asher Lalviim. The pasuk says, this is what is to the Leviim. Ma Talmud Loimar. What does this mean to teach us? Lefi shene'emar, because it says in the pasuk Umi ben 50 shana, from 50 years old. We're talking about the Leviim, and it says from 50 years old, Yoshuv, he has to go back mitzvah ha'avodah from working in the Mishkan. So the pasuk says that from 50 years old, the Leviim have to retire from working in the Mishkan. Mi ben 50 shana yoshuv lamadnu laleviim. We learn that the Leviim shehashanim paislim bohem, that years, meaning when they turn 50, they already become disqualified from working in the Beis Hamikdash. Yachol mumin paislim. Maybe also blemishes. If they get a blemish, they should be considered pasul, just like a kayan. Vidinu, we have a kal v'chomer from Kohanim. If even Kaihanim, that old age does not disqualify them, but Mumin are Paisel, a blemish does disqualify them. So Leviim, Shashanim Paiselim Behem, if Leviim who do have the years disqualifying them, if they even get disqualified by years, for sure, certainly we should say that the blemishes should disqualify them. That's the first pasuk we quoted. This is to the Leviim. Zois Leviim, only this is to Leviim, ve'ein acheres Leviim, and no other psul applies to the Leviim, and therefore, even if they get a blemish, they still considered qualified to work in the Mishkan. Maybe we should learn the other way, that Kaihanim are pasul b'shanim. They should be disqualified as they get to 50 years old. It's a kal v'chomer. If even the Leviim she'ein mum paislim bohem, that do not have the disqualification of a blemish, but shanim paislim bohem, if they get too old, they are pasul. Kaihanim shamum paislim bohem. Kaihanim that do have this issue of blemishes, if they have this issue in a din shanim paislim, for sure they should have the issue of years, that they should be disqualified as they get to 50. Talmud Leimar asher la'Leviim. Another pasuk the Gemara brings to learn out. Specifically, this applies Zais Asher Leviim. That's to the Leviim, V'loy Asher LeKaihanim. Only to the Leviim and not to the Kaihanim. Yochol Af V'Shiloi Uve Beis Eilamim. Maybe this disqualification of the Leviim, that they have to stop working at 50, applies in Mishkan Shiloi. Mishkan Shiloi was the Mishkan that they eventually got to in Eretz Yisrael, not in the desert. And then after Shiloi, they went to the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis Eilamim means that the Beis HaMikdash, which is once we get, the reason why Beis Eilamim is called, the Beis HaMikdash is called Beis Eilamim is because once we establish the Beis HaMikdash, the place where to worship Hashem can only be there. It's forever. Beis Eilamim means the house of forever. Before we got to the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan moved around in a few places. It was in Nivin, it was in Givon, it was in Shilai. But once it gets to Yerushalayim, so then it stays there forever. That's why it's called Beis Eilamim. So maybe Yochol after Shiloi with Beis Eilamim, you might want to say that the disqualification of Leviim at 50 years old applies even in Shiloi and Beis Eilamim. That the disqualification of the Leviim is because the pasuk says that the work of the Leviim is till 50, because it's to work the work of carrying the Mishkan. The work for worship, and the work of carrying the Mishkan when they traveled. So in the Midbar, this didn't apply because they had to be young and strong in order to be able to carry the Mishkan and all its parts and dismantle it and then rebuild it and travel with it and carry it, and therefore they had to be fit. But once they get to the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan Shiloi, which stays in place, so therefore the Leviim's role becomes to only sing the songs in the Beis HaMikdash, not to carry anything, and therefore this disqualification of age 50 doesn't apply anymore. Lo Amarti, the pasuk is saying, I didn't say Ela Bizman She'avayda B'Kasef, only when the worship is on the shoulder, meaning when they're carrying the Mishkan on their shoulders, and therefore in Shila and Yerushalayim it's going to be fine. Now the Gemara continues. Kosav Echad Omer, one pasuk says Miben Chomesh V'Esrim Shana of Hamala. From 25 years and up, that's when a Levi starts working. Kosav Achar Omer, and a different pasuk says Miben Shleishim, from 30 years and on. So we have a seemingly contradictory verses. One says that a Levi starts at 25, and one that he starts at 30. Which one is it? Says the Gemara, it can't be that he starts at 30. It says 25. The it can't say 25. 30. What must be? Talmud, or some say lilmoid, meaning you bring him in to be trained at age 25. to be trained in the work of the Mishkan at 25. But he only starts working at 30. So they apprentice for 5 years, and then they start working at age 30. Mikan, says the Gemara, we learn from here, the Talmud, a student that doesn't find success in his learning. He tries and tries and tries to learn, and he hasn't found success. So how much time should he give himself before he should give up and say, this is not for me? Says the Gemara, hey Shanim. He should give himself 5 years, and you learn this from here. That from here we learn that a student that did not see a good sign, meaning he didn't see his success in his learning, hey Shanim, for 5 years, shuv ein roya, he won't see anymore, and you should give up and go find yourself another field. You learn from here, because over here we're giving 5 years for the Levim to train. So you see, training should take 5 years. And if you did 5 years and it didn't work, so you should give up. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Gimel Shana. Rabbi Yossi says, no, it should be 3 years. Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk in Daniel, Ul Gadlom Shnaim Shalosh, that the Nebuchadnezzar wanted to raise the boys, the Na'arim that he brought from Yerushalayim to Bavel. He said you should train them 2 to 3 years. Ulilamdam Sefer. And then the previous pasuk said that he wanted to teach them Sefer, meaning Chochma, Veloshin Kastim, and the language of Kastim. So you see that the training took 3 years, right? So Rabbi Yossi says that you should only do it for 3 years. But if after you did it for 3 years, you didn't find success, so you should give up. So now, the Gemara is going to compare the different shittas and say what is the one who holds 5 going to do with the psukim that say 3, and the one who holds 3, what is he going to do with the psukim that say 5? So the Gemara says, V'idach, the Chachamim who say that it's 5 years that you have to give yourself for training, and they learn it out from the Levim, they say over here, by Daniel, Shani Loshin Kastim de Kolel. The reason why they only had 3 years to learn it, 3 years to train, is because the language of Kastim is an easy language, and therefore for something that's easy, you should give yourself 3 years. Only 3, and you shouldn't do 5. The Idach and the other opinion, Rabbi Yossi holds that you can't learn from the Levim, because Shani Hilchas Avodah Dit Kifin. The halachas of the Avodah, of carrying the Mishkan, are hard. Because you have to really, it's a hard training, and therefore that you should give yourself 5 years, and if after 5 years you don't succeed, so then you should give up. Before that you shouldn't. So they're just arguing which is the baseline and which is the exception. Tana Rabbana. The Chachamim learned in the Brayta, a Kohen is qualified to work in the Beis HaMikdash Mishiyavi Shtei Cyrus. When he brings 2 pubic hairs, that from that point he's considered a mature adult, and he can work in the Beis HaMikdash ad sheyazken, until he gets too old, and the Gemara is going to explain what that means. Kosher la'avoida, then from then Mishiyavi Shtei Cyrus ad sheyazken, he's kosher la'avoida. Umumin paisin boy, and blemishes will disqualify him, like we explained. Ben Levi, a Levi who's singing in the Beis HaMikdash, mi ben shloishim ve'ad ben chamishim kosher la'avoida. From 30 until 50 is kosher. Vishanim paisin boy, and so years will disqualify him. If he gets too old, he'll become disqualified. Bamed, remember in Ba'il Moyed Sheba Midbar, when do we say that these years disqualify him? In Oil Moyed Sheba Midbar, only in the Oil Moyed, in the desert, because that's when they used to carry the stuff, carry the Kerem, carry the Mishkan. Aval b'shila b'beis Eilamim, ein nifsalin ela b'kol. They're only disqualified if their voice goes bad, because once they got to the Beis HaMikdash, their entire role in the Beis HaMikdash was to sing, and therefore they also used to be watchers, but the only thing that could disqualify them is if their voice goes bad, and then they can't work anymore. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Maikra. Says Rabbi Yossi, what's the pasuk that teaches us that if a Levi's voice goes bad, that he can't sing anymore, he's disqualified from being from working in the Beis HaMikdash? He says, because we learn from the pasuk in Daf Yomi that says Vahi ke'echad lamchatzrim. It's a Kriya Tziv. It says lamchatzrim v'lam shayririm. The trumpeters and the singers were like one. It says Vahi ke'echad la'ashmi'a kol echad, which means that they were all like one, and the symphony of the music and all the voices in the choir of the Levim sounded like one voice. And the beauty of that symphony is that it sounds like one. And if you have a kohen whose voice is off, so then he's disqualified from working in the Beis HaMikdash. Ad Sheyazkin, says the Gemara, we said that a kohen is disqualified until he gets too old. Ad Kama, until when? Amar Rabbi Chanina, Ad Sheyiratet, until he starts shaking. Like old people sometimes start shaking, and then when he starts shaking, he becomes disqualified to do the Avodah. Continues the Gemara. Tanan Hassan. We learn over there. Over there is in Mikvos Perek Ches Mishnah Dalet. It says Bal Keri Shetova V'loi Hitel Mayim. If someone had an ejaculation and then he was toivel, V'loi Hitel Mayim, but he did not urinate before the tvila, then the cheshiyatil, when he urinates, then he's tameh. Why? Because we think maybe some zera stayed inside him, and now when he urinates, some of it's going to come out, and that's going to make him again into a Baal Keri. He's going to be tameh tumas Keri because he now ejaculated a little more zera, and therefore he should be considered tameh. Rabbi Yosi says, B'chayla uvezaken tameh. In a sick person who's not so strong, uvezaken, an old person, he's tameh. But b'yeled ubibari, in a young person or a healthy person, he's tahar. Why? Because he's strong enough and his body's working properly. So Rabbi Yosi says that everything is going to leave his body right away, and you don't have to be concerned that maybe some of it stayed, and when he urinates, it comes out. Yeled ad kama, says the Gemara. When is he considered a yeled? Amr Rabbi Eliyahu, Amr Rabbi Chanina, Kol she'omed al raglei achas v'choletz min olei. Anyone who can stand on one foot and take off his shoe, meaning you can balance on one foot while taking the shoe off the other foot, then you're considered young enough that we don't have to be concerned about the tumas keri. I'm sorry, Chanina says, you can both take it off and put it back on. You can balance that much, you're strong enough to balance that much. Amru alav al Rab Chanina, Shahya ben Shmainim Shana. They used to say by Rab Chanina that he was 80 years old, and he used to stand on one foot, and take it off, take off his shoe, and also put on his shoe while balancing on one foot. Amr Rab Chanina. Says Rabbi Chanina, Chamin v'shemen, the hot water and the oil, shesachtani imi, that my mother smeared on me beyaldusi when I was a child, hein amduli be'ezeknusi, that is what stood up for me in my old age, that I was so healthy. It's because my mother took care of me with oil and hot water. Tan Rabbanan, we learned in the Brisa, Nismala zekonoi, if someone's beard fills out, so then ro'i le'asa shliach tzibur. He's old enough to become a chazan, a shliach tzibur, v'leir lefnei teva, and go in front of the teva to daven for the amud, to be a chazan. V'liso eskapav, and if he's a kohen, to do birkas kohenim. Says the Gemara, me'ei masai kosher la'avoda, when can a man be qualified for avodah in the Beit HaMikdash? When he brings two hairs. Rabbi says, until he's 20. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, my time in the Rabbi, what's the reasoning of Rabbi? Tiksiv says in the pasuk, Vaya Amidu Es Halavim mi ben Esrim Shana v'Mala, that they put up the Levium from 20 years and up, Linnatseach al Meleches Beis Hashem, to conduct the Melacha of Beis Hashem. So you see, only from 20. because it says we've been Esrim Shana, the Idach, and the other man, the Amr, who holds no, from Beis Cyrus, from when he has 2 hairs, that's when he's allowed, you don't have to wait till 20. He holds that this verse, L'natzeach, that says L'natzeach Shani, that's different. Because that means something that, L'natzeach connotes something with extra effort, and then therefore they only let them when they were 20 years old. But for the regular Avodah, that doesn't need Nitzuach, that doesn't need extra special conducting or extra special effort, that you can from when you have 2 hairs, and that's a dispute between Rebbe and this Shita. Says the Gemara, "V'hai krobel v'im ksiv." What's Rebbe's proof? What's Rebbe's raya? It brings a smach from the pasuk in Divrei Hayamim over there. It's talking about Levim. He said that a kohen in the Beis Hamikdash is disqualified until 20, and now you bring me a pasuk from Levim. Rabbi Shulman Levi, the Gemara says it's like Rabbi Shulman Levi. The Rabbi Shulman Levi. There's 24 places. Nikru kohanim Levim. Kohanim are called Levim, meaning really over here, even though it says Levim, it does not mean Levim specifically. It means kohanim that are also happen to be from Shevet Levi, but it means specifically kohanim. V'zeh echad me'ena. This is one of the verses that mean kohanim, even though it says Levim. V'hakohanim alvim b'nei tzadok. The sons of Tzadok are for sure Kohanim, and still calls them HaKohanim HaLevim. So you see that Levim can mean Kohen. So to our verse in Divrei Hayamim that says that Vayamidu es Levim ben Ashim Shana v'Mala, it doesn't mean Levim, regular Levim. It means Kohanim, who are also Levim. Okay, Tanur Rabbanan. Says the word Ish mizarachol adoray sam. This is in the pasuk when it discusses the mumim by a kohen. Mikan Amar Rabbi Elazar, from the word Ish it says Katan pasul avodah, because it has to be a man. He's not a man until he's mature. Mikan Amar Rabbi Elazar, from here Rabbi Elazar says Katan pasul avodah v'afilu tam, and even if he has no blemish, he's pure, he's no mum. Me'emes hakosh la'avodah, from when is he kosh la'avodah? Mishayavish Shtei Cyrus, when he brings 2 hairs. Aval echav ha'kohanim, however, his brothers the kohanim, they do not let him work until he's 20 years old. Some say, Rebbe, this is indeed the previous shita that we saw brought in the name of Rebbe. And Vafil Psul Rabbanon Leslie, when Rebbe said that he has to wait for 20, it's not a Psul Rabbanon. It's not really a Psul. It's just that the other Kohanim don't let him do it. It's just something that they used to do. But it's not that it's a Psul, it's only a Rabbanon. It's not even a D'Rabbanon. It's just something that the Kohanim had a custom that they wouldn't let him do till 20. Some say, Rebbe, Islip Sul D'Rabbanon. Rebbe really holds no, that D'Rabbanon is possible. You cannot, there's a rabbinic prohibition on him to start working in the Beis Hamikdash until 20. And this Shita, that sound like it's just because the Kohanim don't let it, not that it's Me'ikar Adin, that is Rabbanon. And it's only lechatchilah thing, but b'di'eved avodah kshera, meaning this shita that says achiv ha'kohanim don't let him, that's not a psul really. That's just the kohanim didn't let him. This is the Rabbanan who say that you can really do it lechatchilah mishtei Cyrus. Continues the Mishnah. You can do it from Shtei Cyrus, but not lechatchilah because the kohanim didn't let him do it. Masnisin. Tahor Bikli. If what is Tahor in a Kli Cheres is Tameh B'chol HaKelim, is impure by all the other Kelim, what's Tahor B'chol HaKelim, what's considered pure in the other Kelim, is Tameh B'chli Cheres. And we're going to see exactly what this is talking about, another one of the inverse relationships. Tanu Rabbanan. You learned in a Baisa, Avir Kli Cheres Tameh, the Gabay Tahor. The inside of a Kli Cheres is Tameh, but Gabay is Tahor. If Tumah touches the outside of a vessel that's made out of pottery, a clay pot, if Tumah touches, let's say a sheretz, if you have a dead sheretz, one of the 8 rodents that the Torah says are metameh, if they touch the outside of a Kli Cheres, they do not make the Kli Cheres tameh. But if they touch the inside of the Kli Cheres, then it does make it, even if it doesn't actually hit the kli, if it just goes into the air that's in the kli, then it's already become tamei. Avir kli cheres tamei, the inner air of the kli cheres is tamei. If a sheretz is dangling into the kli, even though it didn't actually hit the walls of the kli or didn't hit anything in the kli, it still makes the kli tamei. The gabai, but if it actually touches the outside of the kli, it's tahor. Aver kol kelim, the rest of the kelim, non-pottery kelim, are the air is tahor. If a sheretz goes into the air of the kli, then it's tahor. The gaban, but outside, if it touches the outside, it's tamei. Nimtza, we find it comes out that tar b'kli cheres. What's tar in kli cheres is tamei b'chol kelim, and what's tar b'chol kelim is tamei b'kli cheres. It says the Gemara Minani Mili. How do you know this? The Tana Rabbana, because we went to the Beit. It says in the pasuk, "V'chol kli cheres asher yipol meihem el techay." Any kli cheres that a sheretz will fall into it. Kol asher b'soicha yitma. Anything inside is tamei v'isais yishbaru, and the kli you must break. So says the Brisa, Toichay. It means if the sheretz falls into the kli, even though it didn't touch the walls of the kli, it still makes it tamei. Ata oimer, you want to say even though it didn't touch, maybe not. Maybe that the sheretz actually has to touch the kli in order to make it tamei. Rabbi Yonasan ben Avtulmus oimer. So Rabbi Yonasan says, Nemar toichay l'tamei. It says toichay to make what's contained in the kli litame, makes it tamei. The pasuk says toichay twice. One of them is saying that what's contained in the kli becomes tamei, litame, that it's mitame the things in the kli. V'nemar toichay litame, and it says toichay litame, to become tamei, meaning that the kli itself becomes tamei. Just like the toichay that said to make everything else tamei, to make everything in the kli tamei, that's even if the sheretz doesn't touch the actual walls of the kli or the actual food, and just comes into the kli and makes everything inside the kli tamei. Af toichay, also when it says toichay, ha'omur li tamei, that is referring to the kli itself becoming tamei from the sheretz. Afal pi shloi naga, also as if it never touched it. Asks the Gemara v'hasam minalan. Over there itself, how do you know? How do you know? You want to learn out from the fact that the things in the kli, the food, let's say there's food in the kli, the food in the kli becomes tamei if the sheretz goes into the air of the kli. And from there you want to learn that the kli itself also becomes tamei. It says the Gemara, how do you know that from? It itself, how do you know from? Rabbi Yonasan says, HaTorah he'ida al kli cheres. The Torah testifies on a kli cheres that it becomes, that it's mitame everything inside. Va'afilu molei chardal, even if it's filled with mustard. Even if the kli is filled with mustard seeds, right? And then a sheretz falls in, it falls into the aver, it makes everything tamei. Now, what parts of the food, the mustard that's in the kli become tamei? Everything becomes tamei, even though only some of the seeds are touching the walls of the kli. Right? We have only some mustard seeds touching the walls, the rest are in the middle, and still the Torah says, Kol asher b'soicha yitma, everything in the kli cheres is tamei. So you see that from the fact that everything in the cheres is tamei, not only something that's touching the wall of the kli, i.e. if you have small things like mustard seeds that are all over the place, not just one big bulky thing that does touch the walls. If you can have things in the tanur that don't touch the walls, like mustard seeds that are spread throughout the kli, and still we say that everything in the kli cheres is tamei. You see from there that the avir is mitame, even though it doesn't actually touch the walls of the kli. So you see that regarding the kli itself, that's tamei, to make what's contained in the kli also tamei, then all you need is aver. All you need is to be within the air of the cheres. Within the air of the kli. If you have a tamei kli and there's food in that kli, the food becomes tamei as a result of just being within the air of the kli cheres, even though it doesn't touch any of the walls. Says the Gemara, so too we learn from there that just like regarding the kli cheres making something else tamei, all you need is for that thing to be in the air of the kli cheres. Also in regard to the kli cheres itself becoming tamei from a sheretz, all you need is the sheretz to go into the airspace, into the kli, but not touching any of the walls. Just the airspace alone is enough to make the kli tamei, and that's only true by kli cheres, but not by other kelim. At kan Chulin Daf Chof Dalit.
Amen.